Moroccan people were really not ready for this at all. They've never had anything quite like this in terms of natural disasters, and you have really an entire nation in shock.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're taking a look at recent natural disasters that devastated parts of the world, yet barely made the news. Out of respect for those affected, the entries to follow are unranked and presented in chronological order.
At the Catagran Shrine, where millions traditionally mark the new year, you could hear the structure creaking as it swayed.
Wooroloo Bushfire.
It was one of WA's worst bushfires in recent history. Residents were forced to evacuate as flames left 86 homes in ruins and damaged many more.
Lantana always comes up okay.
Volunteer firefighter Bryony McCrudden's parents' home in Tilden Park was saved, but everything around it was destroyed.
Fanned by strong winds and fueled by blistering summer heat, February's Wooroloo Bushfire forced thousands to evacuate, with entire communities displaced in a matter of hours. The fast-moving bushfire tore through the rural outskirts of Perth, Western Australia, destroying 86 homes and scorching more than 26,000 acres.
Every single tree that you can see through here, every piece of the garden was burnt, and a lot of the gutters, the downpipes were burnt, the roof got heat damage.
They consider themselves lucky. Many of Miss McCrudden's neighbours have been forced to move away while waiting for their homes to be rebuilt.
Miraculously, no lives were lost, though the destruction left a deep scar on the region. The disaster struck as Western Australia was grappling with strict COVID-19 lockdowns, complicating both evacuation procedures and relief efforts. While bushfires are a familiar threat in Australia, the scale and timing of this blaze made it one of the most devastating in the state's recent history.
There's still a lot of holes in our community. I mean, you go out for a walk or a run and there's a lot of empty places where families and friends used to live.
Haiti Earthquake.
We go to Haiti now, where more than 300 people are now confirmed dead after a powerful earthquake throttled this island nation Saturday morning. That quake toppled buildings and destroyed homes, hurting nearly 2,000 people.
On August 14, 2021, Haiti was rocked by a 7.2 magnitude earthquake that reduced buildings to rubble and left tens of thousands without shelter. The disaster killed more than 2,200 people, injured over 12,000, and compounded an already dire humanitarian crisis in the Western Hemisphere's poorest nation. The quake struck just over a decade after the catastrophic 2010 earthquake that claimed at least 100,000 lives, a tragedy from which Haiti had never fully recovered.
The earthquake tore this voodoo temple right off the mountain. Now, these firefighters have been working here for 2 days now. They believe there are more bodies in the rubble, and this goes on for house after house.
Hospitals gutted by the quake are filled with patients, many of them in tents or hallways.
This time, relief efforts were further hampered by political instability following the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse, widespread gang violence, and a looming tropical storm. While the 2010 quake dominated headlines worldwide, the 2021 disaster, no less ruinous for those affected, passed far more quietly on the global stage.
Are your friends okay?
Yes, she is my friend, and she was in her house, but unfortunately she died. She died with her son inside the house.
Eastern Australian floods.
The rain event that Brisbane had over that 2 to 3 day period in total is equivalent to 80% of the rainfall that we would receive in 1 year. And we have over 30 suburbs across the southeast that received over 1,000 millimetres.
Our second Australian entry takes us to New South Wales, where relentless rainfall in early 2022 triggered the worst flooding in the state's recorded history. Entire towns, particularly Lismore, were submerged as rivers burst their banks, forcing tens of thousands to evacuate.
This isn't about people who didn't take the right precautions. To leap from known historical records and then just top it by 2.5 metres is incredible. Now that led to a terrible emergency.
In dire straits here, can't get onto the roof. Thinking it's starting to swim to the neighbours.
Over 20 people lost their lives, and the economic toll reached into the billions, with homes, businesses, and infrastructure left in ruins. For many communities, the floods came less than a year after another bout of severe inundation, exacerbating the heartache for a country already no stranger to climate-driven disasters.
Here in Lismore today, we are in that climate catastrophe future. And the cost of not admitting it isn't just political. The cost of not admitting it is communities that aren't prepared, communities that are in shock and devastation on this scale.
West Java Earthquake.
At least 252 people have died in Java, according to local authorities. More than 7,000 are seeking shelter and hundreds are injured. The Indonesian Navy has deployed hundreds of personnel to assist the evacuation and search for victims.
On November 21st, 2022, a 5.6 magnitude earthquake struck Indonesia's West Java province, sending shockwaves through the city of Cianjur and surrounding rural areas. Despite its moderate magnitude, the shallow depth of the quake and the dense population in its path proved catastrophic. Hundreds were killed, thousands were injured, and over 60,000 were displaced.
I was crying and immediately grabbed my husband and children. If I didn't pull them out, we might have become victims. The house was shaking as if it was dancing. Hospitals have been overwhelmed by the injured people, with many having to be treated outside.
Many victims were children, trapped when school buildings collapsed. Landslides triggered by the tremors cut off entire villages, complicating rescue efforts. Indonesia, located along the seismically active Ring of Fire, is no stranger to earthquakes, but the 2022 West Java disaster reaffirmed that even lower magnitude quakes can be devastating when vulnerability is high.
In a single day, there could be dozens of aftershock. Some were powerful enough to leave people fleeing for their lives. Scientists have predicted that we will continue to see aftershocks like this over the next few days, although their levels are expected to decrease gradually.
Turkey-Syria Earthquakes. A 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck southern Turkey near the Syrian border in the early hours of February 6, 2023, followed hours later by another powerful tremor. The twin quakes leveled entire cities, killing as many as 62,000 people and leaving millions homeless across both nations.
And it did cause a certain extra damage, not just only hampering the rescue efforts, because I did see on my way, this is my second visit here, some of the buildings that were that looked fine before were also damaged.
Despite an extensive global humanitarian response, aid distribution to opposition-held areas of northwest Syria was slow, fragmented, and in some cases deliberately obstructed.
The first few trucks carrying aid to Syria finally made it through the Bab al-Hawa border point. But many say that it's too little, too late. All other crossings are currently excluded from the United Nations cross-border agreement with the Assad regime.
United Nations officials acknowledge that survivors there felt abandoned, with reports of blockaded border crossings, bureaucratic delays, and a lack of modern rescue equipment contributing to thousands of preventable deaths. The tragedy was a stark reminder of the region's seismic vulnerability and the painful real toll of politics in the midst of disaster.
This man begs the international community to help with a breaking voice. Some of those who responded to us yesterday are dead today, he says. This site is just one of many in a war-torn country further flattened by these earthquakes.
Typhoon Doksuri.
The storm affected over 500,000 individuals with more than 42,000 displaced. Meanwhile, the estimated cost of damage to infrastructures jumped to over 656 million pesos. Damage to agriculture was pegged at around 58 million. Those numbers are expected to go higher.
Doksuri carved a relentless path of destruction across Southeast Asia in late July of 2023, battering the Philippines, Taiwan, and China with torrential rains and winds exceeding 100 miles per hour. The storm triggered widespread flooding and landslides, with hundreds dead or missing and forcing millions from their homes.
The flood has subsided in most parts of Bangued, but when the powerful typhoon slammed Abra on Wednesday, the heavy rains it brought caused floods which trapped some residents on roofs. Not only did Egay sweep away people's belongings, it also destroyed rice and corn fields, which are sources of livelihood of residents.
In Beijing, the heaviest rainfall in over a century submerged streets and farmland, while in the Philippines, entire coastal communities were flattened. Doksuri's sheer ferocity also devastated crops and infrastructure, dealing a severe blow to regional economies and food security. And yet, outside of the affected countries, the disaster was quietly eclipsed by other world events, receiving only brief flashes of attention before fading from view.
Parts of China's northeast are underwater, and many rivers are dangerously full following torrential rain caused by Typhoon Doksuri. Authorities in the provinces of Heilongjiang, Jilin, and Inner Mongolia have raised the alert to the highest levels. Some regions received 3 times the expected rainfall in the past few days.
Haouz Earthquake.
The quake was centered here, just south of the popular tourist destination of Marrakesh. The death toll already stands at over 2,000 people. And as we get new images in of the destruction, it's clear that number is only going to rise.
Striking deep in Morocco's Atlas Mountains, the Haouz earthquake was the country's deadliest in more than 6 decades. Measuring 6.9 in magnitude, it reduced centuries-old villages to rubble, killing nearly 3,000 people and injuring thousands more.
Suddenly we saw things falling from above, like dishes and other things that were fixed to the wall. We were unable to sit or stand. Then we fled outside, said this resident. Really, the earthquake was very strong.
The disaster struck on September 8, 2023, with its epicenter in a remote mountainous region, making rescue and relief efforts excruciatingly slow. Many survivors were left to dig through debris by hand in search of loved ones, while damaged roads and landslides hindered aid convoys. Morocco's rich cultural heritage suffered immense losses as historic sites crumbled. Yet the global response paled in comparison to the scale of the tragedy.
The real deaths will be in the countryside where I am. Just a couple of hours ago, I saw an army helicopter hovering above me, slowly cruising around the mountainside looking for tiny little local houses that have collapsed on people.
Noto Earthquake.
The quakes were centered around Ishikawa Prefecture on the west coast of Honshu Island across from Tokyo. They triggered tsunami warnings all down the coast and in parts of North Korea and Russia. A major tsunami did not materialize, but as Yvette Bren shows us, the powerful tremors have left a trail of destruction.
On January 1st, 2024, a 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck Japan's Noto Peninsula, collapsing buildings, sparking fires, and triggering tsunami warnings along the country's western coast. The disaster killed an estimated 645 people, injured over 1,000, and displaced tens of thousands, all in the middle of winter. Roads and rail lines were severed, isolating communities and slowing rescue operations in the critical first days.
In many places, it's like time stopped after the earthquake. Wrecked houses waiting to be removed after they collapsed. Residents fled. Many have stayed away. The population is estimated to have dropped by about 30%.
Japan's renowned earthquake preparedness undoubtedly prevented an even greater loss of life, but the scale of destruction, particularly in rural areas, was severe. The deadliest earthquake to strike Japan since the 2011 Tohoku disaster, Noto's ripple effects will be felt for years to come.
The whole room was shaking, the TV was shaking. It is quite scary, definitely. When you hear about earthquakes in Japan, you wouldn't expect one to actually experience one.
Power was cut to more than 30,000 homes, and the shaking was felt throughout the island, including in the Nagano region.
Myanmar Earthquake.
And where the full scale of this tragedy is still not yet known. A natural disaster that could not have come at a worse time for this war-torn nation.
A massive 7.4 magnitude earthquake tore through central Myanmar, leveling neighborhoods, splitting highways, and reducing entire villages to rubble. The tremor, the strongest recorded in the country since 1912, left significant destruction in its wake. Striking on March 24, 2025, it destroyed critical infrastructure, including hospitals, schools, and bridges, severely hampering relief efforts. and leaving many rural areas unreachable for days.
News only slowly emerged through the day in a nation ruled by a military junta amid a civil war, and where the media is tightly controlled. As state-run TV announced a state of emergency in multiple regions, they initially offered only images of broken glass and smashed pots.
Landslides buried remote settlements, while aftershocks kept survivors in constant fear of further collapse. For Myanmar, the quake's sheer force and devastation were almost without precedent, marking one of the most harrowing natural catastrophes the nation has ever faced.
CNN photojournalist Mark Phillips in Bangkok says that the tremors were violent. A resident of the city shot this video, and you can see water splashing out of a rooftop pool there on the high-rise apartment building next door. The USGS says that the quake had a depth of 10 kilometers or 6 miles.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications. Central Texas floods.
Now let's do some breaking news out of parts of central and western Texas. At least 6 people are dead. Several more are missing due to major flooding. At least 6 inches of rain has fallen since last night, overwhelming the Guadalupe River.
Days of relentless rainfall overwhelmed rivers and reservoirs across central Texas, triggering flash floods that swallowed neighborhoods, cut off highways, and forced mass evacuations. Dozens of counties declared disaster emergencies as homes, businesses, and farmland were left submerged, with damage estimates climbing into the billions.
The fire department also monitoring area nursing and assisted living locations as well. As residents and staff shelter in place, shelters have been set up, we're told, for those who've been displaced by this flooding, major flooding in that area. Kerrville is about 75 miles west of Austin.
The July 2025 crisis was compounded by dangerous currents, contaminated water supplies, and prolonged power outages. Amid the chaos, social media misinformation flourished, adding a detrimental partisan slant to an already devastating humanitarian crisis.
The story that we had of 2 little girls that were somehow miraculously found in a tree 30 feet up is not true, unfortunately.
For those in the flood zone, the deluge was not just a battle against nature, but against a tide of misleading information that threatened to make a bad situation worse.
The number of dead following devastating flash floods in Texas has now risen to at least 70, including 21 children. A number of other people are missing, including 11 girls who were attending a summer camp on the banks of a river. The state's governor, Greg Abbott, says there's a need for speed as hundreds of rescuers search for survivors.
Which natural disaster in our video shocked you the most? Are there any we missed? Be sure to let us know in the comments below.
People, who were hoping for a really good story, because we've had nothing but bad news for the last, 3 days now.